everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our talk show, the Rajendra Mehta Show. And today we have our special guest, Mr. Throm, and he is, I would say, it's our privilege to have him in our talk show. So we'll start with his introduction, and then later on we'll talk about, what are the contribution he is doing and what are the things he's doing in AI and ML. And of course it's gonna be useful for each and every person who wanted to make a career in AI, ML, or data science. This talk show is gonna be. We would really like to know about you. If you can, throw some more light on that.
Sure. I can give a brief overview of my career, or does that sound appropriate?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and then I went to a very large Dallas high school, and I was a competitive swimmer, and my swim coach was my biology teacher. So, of course, I had to make A's in that class, and I was, most courses were easy for me. And then I took physics and trigonometry, and they
Uh-huh.
kicked my butt, and
Oh.
I fell in love with it though. And I remember my physics teacher in high school was a real hard nose,
Uh-huh.
but he walked by my desk and he goes, "Tommy, you going to college?" "Yes, sir." "What are you going to major in?" "Mechanical engineering." And I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, "You'll do well." And I said,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, thank you." I was shocked that he said that, but I had to work really hard in physics. And the first 2 years in undergrad in mechanical engineering, I felt a little lost conceptually, but then everything started to really make sense, and I bloomed, and I fell in love with predictive modeling using physics. And really, even as a freshman, I fell in love using least squares to fit noisy data, like
Uh-huh.
from physics labs. And I remember relying on a predictive model to help us do better in our design, our senior design project. And then I went off to work for my nation's naval nuclear program, but as a civilian. But I went through the same training that the naval officers go through. And it was a very intense program. But when they went out to sea, I stayed behind and trained new officers and petty officers going through the training program on
Mhm.
our real reactor plants. And then I was picked to be on the Seawolf design team from that. But the plant manager who ran the training program at the training reactors, he thought of us like gold, and he wouldn't let me go. And I just found fine. So I took a job as a manager of reactor operations
Okay.
at Texas A&M University's Nuclear Science Center, and started my graduate school work while I was there.
Uh-huh.
And there I fell more and more in love with predictive modeling. I did predictive modeling with robotics, and I did my dissertation on hybrid electric vehicle power plants. And it was there that I started to learn more advanced data science principles before we even called it data science. So I started to learn neural networks and expert systems, and use the expert systems in to pretend to be the driver of my
Uh-huh.
hybrid electric vehicle power plants. And then right out of grad school, once I had my PhD, I moved to the Boise area, and I was manager of advanced products at a small semiconductor manufacturing company that made tools to help
Uh-huh.
uh, the manufacture of wafers and such. And I didn't stay there long. I moved over to Hewlett Packard, had a a rich career there, some highs and some lows, and but learned a lot. And that's when I would say I started transitioning more and more from doing physics-based modeling to data type modeling. And so
Mhm.
mentored a lot of students getting their advanced degrees while they were doing their research there. Then at the next company on semiconductor, mentored a lot of young people there, and then moved finally to my first role title of a lead data scientist at UL, and now I'm at AI strategy. And I love Python. I've been coding in it for over 20 years. I love automating things. I love doing any kind of predictive modeling. So definitely excited about us entering this data age full force. And particularly excited about how transformers are changing the landscape and how smart of a deep learning architecture they are. I love to play with those every chance I get.
That's a great introduction. So I would say I would wish to call you Dr. Tom. So Dr. Tom, we have a lot of learners, right, who wanted to be in AI, wanted to be ML.
I've even wrote a few blog posts on this, 3 to be exact, and I would like to write more, but the first thing is you have to be the master of your own learning plan.
Uh-huh.
In other words, you have to constantly be planning what you're going to learn and update that plan. And don't expect your plan to be perfect in the beginning. But if you try to drive right away into deep learning or transformers, you're going to miss too much.
Okay.
Start at the basics. For example, get really good at your primary programming language. I love Python, but some people love R, and I would never criticize anyone for choosing R. But if you start with Python, you can't go wrong. And then I would focus on the basics, understanding the machine learning development pipeline, understanding how to do linear regression and do it well, understand all the ways it can be used. So really focus on the basics. If you master the basics of both linear regression and logistic regression, then as you move from there in small, succinct steps, everything will be easier by knowing those basics really well.
So you said that they need to be, they need to be good with the basics, right? So if they wanted to start with the basic, because when every company, I would say whether it's a manufacturing company, product-based company, whether it's a, if you talk about a different domain, pharma, healthcare, banking, telecom, every domain is talking about AI, ML. But when somebody wanted to start the career, right, and they are landed up with so many resources. So what do you suggest, which kind of resources they should look for and how they can start the career?
Think of it this way. If you were to go to a martial artist expert and ask them, how should I start? They would say, you need to start with the basics. You go and you want to become the best basketball player in history. Where do you start? You get really good at the basics.
Right.
You want to be an expert swordsman. You practice the fundamentals and the basics over and over. So,
Right.
And when new people come to me and I'm doing a class in our family for them, I start with the equation of a line.
Wow.
The equation of a line. And I say, look, if you know how to do this, if you know how to fit a line, you already know machine learning. Now let's make it more complicated. Let's deal with more complicated data now. And
Right.
then it helps them because we started from a step that they already usually know. But actually, Raj, sometimes I get people, they've forgotten how to fit a basic line between two
Right.
points.
Best fit line
Once-
or regression line, right?
Yeah.
And they talked
And
about
so
deep
once they
learning,
see
NLP,
that,
and all those things.
and then two, maybe someone I'm helping or tutoring, it's been a while since they've seen how to do a derivative. And I remind them, this is what a derivative means. It's just the slope of some function at a given point. And oh, okay. And why is that important? Because
Right.
we're trying to search for a solution. Oh, okay. And so, but I remember the pain, the confusion of the years getting oriented with coding and with engineering. And at one point, it all clicked because my professors were forcing me over and over to focus on the basics, the fundamentals. And that took me so far in grad school and industry too.
Okay, so the country, where are you, right? Let's say somebody wanted to be into data science. Do you think they should have a background, a science background, or they wanted to know physics or maths, linear algebra, all those things are required, or statistics, or they need to know which are required for AI or ML application. So what would be your suggestion on that, Dr. Tom?
I think you're asking me what fundamental background should they start with? And I can tell you, I've met phenomenally good data scientists that started in statistics.
Right.
Some started in computer engineering. Some started in engineering. Go on and on. I think I've even met, well, a good friend of mine in the UK who's from New Zealand, and he owns Data Science Infinity, Andrew Jones. He came from a completely non-technical background, and he started learning machine learning from a friend to help organize data with their cricket club. And he kept advancing his skills, and he worked up to get a job at prominent companies and got really involved in the hiring process. And now he's a very well-known figure in the educational space for data science.
So you rightly
successful-
said. So should we say that you should not be having a technical background? You could be a data scientist if you aspire to be.
You know, I would never trade my years training as an engineer. It made a lot of people ask me, what made you switch from being a mechanical engineer to a data scientist? I'm like, I was always a data scientist as an engineer. I just started doing, you know, a different type of predictive modeling. And so anyone with a technical background that's doing a lot of coding and predictive modeling to support their work, it's easy to, I wouldn't even say transition into data science, just start having more of an emphasis in the data science.
Right.
So, but really, Andrew Jones, for example, anyone can get into it if they focus on the basics and get really good at understanding how to apply our principles to real world problems. And most of those problems can be solved with the more basic machine learning algorithms. It's very rare that you actually need to run to deep learning. I would say now, for someone that wants to get good at natural language processing, they want to get through the basics and they want to get into transformers as soon as they can. But it doesn't mean they have to understand how to code them from scratch overnight. But still understanding those principles, how to clean data, how to get data organized, that's going to take them a long ways.
Okay. So we can say that anybody would, can make this career, would be into data science if they spend a good amount of time. So according to you, Dr. Tom, there would be some time span a person or individual or learner should spend to learn this skills, right? Because we talked about every engineer, every graduate, every new people who wanted to be in this industry, they wanted to have the things which they are doing right now, and then they wanted to be in this industry, right? So sometimes what happened is, let's say within their company or outside their company, there is a requirement of a person knowing ML AI, right? So at that particular time, what approach they should take it? They should keep learning parallelly with their work, with their studies, or what would be your word of advice on that?
This is a great question, because I would say it's getting more and more competitive. And I've talked to a lot of people who even have a master's degree, and it took them a long time to get a job. However, by the way, anyone listening, please feel free to connect with me over LinkedIn or with anyone in the integrated family. We can get you involved and start helping you as much as we can. But there's another blog post I wrote called Being a Data Scientist. And in that blog post, I highlighted Andrew Jones, Susan Walsh, some other key figures and how they entered the field. And I would like to say this. Don't get fixated on your first job having a data science role title. Just get the best job you can as close to data as you can be, and be a data scientist. Do your main job functions,
Right.
but then try to enhance your performance by blessing your organization with data science skills. And if you do that in a way that you show you care about the business, and you're talking to stakeholders, you're finding out what they're afraid of, and you're looking for an intersection between what you can do with data and what their needs are, and you start showing them little by little what you're trying to do to help there, you will become a hero. Just keep trying. And they may not listen. Don't try to talk them into what you think needs to be done. Bring data to help them, to help show them how data can help with what they are concerned about. Then they'll start to care about what you have to say after you've done that a few cycles.
So business problem solving approach you are talking about, right? But really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. One of the, I guess, interview of Warren Buffett I have seen couple of years back, he was saying the similar, I would say, things about it. And but you put it very nicely, and I really appreciate it. It would be actually helpful to a lot of millions of learners, millions of people, graduates, and the people who are already doing jobs. It's going to be a word of advice from you, Mr. Dr. Tom, I would say. And I really appreciate your answer.
I want to just add this one thing. Ernest Hemingway was famous for being able to share a very powerful story in very few words.
Right.
He was very famous for that. Now, I wish I could say I came up with this, but someone far better than me came up with it. But I'm going to summarize even that down to one word. If you want to be a good data specialist, a good data evangelist, a good data scientist, machine learning engineer, whatever, it's a one-word message. Care. Just care. Go find out the problems and use data to help solve the problems. And don't always think it has to be a machine learning solution, predictive modeling. Maybe just a good dashboard, maybe just some good data processing and visualization will help the organization just in phenomenal ways. So don't run off to do what you're excited to do. Run off to find out how data can, how there can be a greater return on data for the company. Care.
That's the clap from my end, I would say, and from all of our learners as well. Not what exactly, every problem is not a machine learning problem. Every problem do not require a AI solution. So you wisely say, the difference between whether it's an automation, whether it's an ML problem, you can apply some dashboard over there. What your business required, you provide the solution accordingly, right? So that's really, you put it in the nice way, Dr. Tom. And Dr. Tom, if I wanted to tell you that if you provide the 3 resources where or anyone can go and learn or grow, or they can be in this industry, what are those 3 resources you can provide to our learner?
Absolutely. In fact, everyone that connects with me on LinkedIn and asks me for help, I give them a standard message that has resources just like you're asking about. Because I figure, if they know how to start their own learning plan, and they know it's okay that it stinks in the beginning, but that it will improve over time. So I've written 3 blog posts that I always point them to, and then I point them to some free resources. Just getting started, just doing some real work, like on Kaggle, on KD Nuggets. Andrew Jones has some free materials. We have free recordings of the lectures that we're teaching in our integrated family. But reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll give you that message. It'll have those links, and it'll have a suggestion of how to grow as rapidly as you can without burning yourself out.
That is the great thing. So what I'll do is, the 3 things which you have mentioned, we definitely put that in our comment section, in our description, so people can have a look into that, and they can reach out to you as well. And okay. So we are about to reach to the end of the talk show. So Dr. Tom, I wanted to thank you so much for being in our talk show, and it's really gonna helpful to lot of our community members, and to the new learners, graduates, the new aspirant who wanted to be into data science. It would be a guiding light for them. So anything you would like to talk about, Dr. Tom?
I, I thank you for saying that. I wanted to say one last thing. Let's say your aim is to be a data scientist, but maybe you'll be a business analysis, a business analyst first, or who knows?
Right.
But I would say this: it took thousands of years, actually 3,000 to 4,000 years, to reach the level of math that we're at now.
Okay.
You shouldn't feel bad if it takes you a couple of weeks to a couple of years to master certain mathematical principles. Just look at it, try to understand it, try to apply it to problems, think about it, and take a break. Stay rested, and then go back at it. But don't judge yourself because you're not learning it as fast as the person next to you, or because you're struggling more than someone else. That doesn't mean you won't become a phenomenally good data scientist. It just means that you are re-experiencing the pain of growth of what took more than 2,000 years to develop mathematically among the greatest minds of history. We stand on their shoulders, and we are blessed to live in this age and be able to exercise this fast-growing math and computational abilities. So if you want to get in this field, though, because of what I'm saying, you have to be a lifelong learner. You can't expect to just get a degree and go out and do a job and stop learning. That won't work in this field.
Yeah.
You have to love continually learning, but also your worst enemy will be burnout. So don't try to do it too fast. Take breaks, stay rested.
Yeah.
I even at my age, I have to be very careful to, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I have to be very careful to avoid burnout because I've got so much going on. And I was really happy that our integrated family asked, can we please take a break? I said, okay. And I realized, I needed the break more than anyone because I was about to burn out. So that's my final encouragement. It's hard, but it's when you master these principles and you really start to understand it, it feels so wonderful to have that insight. So stick with it.
Dr. Tom, thank you so much for coming to our talk show. And I really appreciate your time, your efforts, and the word of wise you have shared, the expertise you have shared from these many years. And the thing which you have mentioned that, after these many years also, you are a learner, you are learning new things. And you suggested everyone that, everybody have their own expertise, their own challenges. So try to keep walking on this path and keep learning. If they wanted to get in more idea, they can comment into the chat section, and we'll definitely get back to them through different resources. And I'll definitely share the 3 resources which you have just talked about, and we will take it forward. So thank you so much, Dr. Tom. It was really a privilege to be here. Thank you so much.
It was an honor to be with you, Raj.
Yeah.
Thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Bye-bye.
Bye.